An average profit on designer shoes, you could probably average 250 profit per flip. You can go on my Instagram and see there's times I've done 450 on a shoe.
Any hustler entrepreneur is going to tell you that, like, you got to separate personal and business at some level. But for the people that are hobbyists that are trying to turn this into a business, they have an edge in that this is something that they know a lot about, that they're passionate about, that they can maybe transform their passion into a revenue source.
So when I go into business, there's no other way I can run. I calculate all this stuff, monthly projections, we do yearly projections. But a lot of people in the reseller space didn't do any of that.
It seems like with reselling, there's kind of a sweet spot for a lot of people. And we operate mostly in the couch flipping world, very different world. There are similarities and differences, I would say. But, for a couch flipper, maybe a sweet spot is your solo operation.
When I was younger, I did all of these corporate jobs because I was supposed to.
Welcome to another episode of The Couch Pod. Today I'm joined by Isa Diaz, a corporate girly turned designer reseller. Thank you so much for coming onto the pod with me today.
I'm really excited, actually. I love doing podcasts. So I don't know if you find this kind of weird, but like social media is such a one-sided conversation. You're putting out stuff and then eventually people comment and then eventually you can kind of go back. But I love the podcast setting. I also really like to talk.
I agree with you because I think in our corporate communications or social media posts, there's like an image of ourselves that we're trying to put out into the world. But if people really wanted to understand you, who you are, how you think, and they took the time to listen along to a podcast, it's all there. So I think it's a better way to connect with your audience and get a message out if it's important to you. So Isa, tell me about your story. Like, it's very fascinating to me. So you started corporate world, you have that background in fashion, retail, marketing, branding, and then today you're, as we were discussing earlier, you're traveling the world, you're working remote, you're running this company, The Global Collective. So how did you go from one to the other?
So I talk about this a lot because I think a lot of younger people, right? What am I, 39? Ugh. I'm 39. And I think, when I was younger, I did all of these corporate jobs because I was supposed to, right? I was supposed to climb the ladder and I was supposed to get a good job and I was supposed to, even up until I was 27, I thought I would be like a CMO when I was on that path, right? But I did a lot of like BS jobs right up until that. And I remember being like, a sales associate at Nordstrom's and going like, why the hell do I have to write down when this lady's anniversary is, when her birthday is? Like, who cares what her kids' names are, And so Nordstrom had this really strict, not strict, like this very all encompassing customer service policy where you had to know everything you could about your customers. Now, this was before this technology where like WhatsApp can hear everything you're saying and we don't even have to tell people what we like anymore. But it was this whole documenting of your client, right? And when I first had to do it, I always was so annoyed. I'm like, who cares? Happy anniversary, Stacy. Hope you and Brian have another 10 years or whatever, right? When you got the response from the customer, you're like, wow, this means something to them. And then it means something to you because you understand that it makes people happy, right? Not only are they spending money with you, but it's this connection that gets built. And I did get to a point with customers where I would charge them to like clean out their closet. I'd go to their home, clean out their closet, tell them what works, what doesn't work. And then I'd sell them on the stuff they need at Nordstrom. So I'd make commission on it. And I was making great money, but I was also like, she was excited. She had money. I worked in the older women's department. So it was like, they were in their like 60s, so they thought they had to dress a certain way, but they were hot and like fit. And, it was in San Diego. And I was like, you don't have to wear the old lady jeans. Like, we can get you into sevens. You're still good. And so it just kind of became this really cool interaction. And I started to understand a lot of the reasons why Nordstrom wanted me to do this stuff. Like, I remember sitting at, I worked at All Saints too, and we'd do floor sets at 4 a.m. every so often so that the clients would see the new collections in a certain way. And it was like, this dress has to be in the center and people have to walk around this and people have to be able to walk around this table. And like, there was a plan and a structure to everything, right? And the straightening of racks, I'm like, this is so stupid. Why am I sitting here waxing racks and making sure that they can flow and all this stuff, right? the presentation, like shoes have to be angled a certain way and everything had to be laced up and buttoned and whatever. And when we packed this whole thing, and I think I was collecting a little puzzle piece from every job that I had, but I never understood what they meant, right? So why the hell am I doing these client books? Why the heck am I doing these floor steps? What is this going to do in my future as a CMO, right? And then when I started the Global Collective, it was this beautiful moment where everything that I had thought was annoying that I had learned from jobs came together and helped me build this really strong designer resale, right? Because there's a step up on what people expect when they're still dropping $600-700 a pop. So I kind of started in retail, worked into marketing. I started trying to work towards being a CMO, right? I just didn't realize until now that I had picked up the perfect pieces to do what I'm doing now. So that's kind of like how I started and where it ended.
Isa, as you know, we work primarily with couch flippers. And as we were talking before the podcast began, you have a couch flipping story. I'd love to hear that.
I do. I have one couch flipping story. So we lived in LA and my boyfriend and I moved into a new place. And my friend was moving into her boyfriend's and she already had all the furniture, right? And my boyfriend and I were trying to find couches, but I loved our couch that we had when we were roommates, right, with this girl. And it was this massive 7x5 or something like that, massive sectional from IKEA. And if you went and bought it at the store, it was thousands of dollars because of the size, and it was just like a custom size or whatever. And I was telling my friend, like, sell it to us. You don't need it, whatever. She didn't really care about the money. I don't think she knew what it was worth, right? She was just like, what am I going to do with this couch? And I'm like, but I want to be fair. You paid $300 from like a liquidation thing. She got really lucky at a store that was going out of sale or whatever. So sell it to us for like $600, right? Make a little bit of money or whatever. And she was like, yeah, whatever, take it. So my boyfriend bought it and we took it to our place. My boyfriend's like 6 feet tall and he can lay across and not touch the end. So it's got to be like, I don't know, 6.5 feet, right? And then I can lay the other way and I'm 5'7" or whatever. So it was huge. We used it for 4.5 years. I'm a reseller, right? So I would like paint shoes while I was watching my shows. So there was like acrylic stains and like my whole family slept on it. We would turn it into like a queen size bed when people came over, whatever. At the end of our run, even though I tried to like spot clean it and stuff, like we washed it a couple times because it was the ones that come off. But at some point, some things just can't be undone, right? Black acrylic paint just definitely doesn't come off. And I'm like, I'm going to sell it when we're going to leave. And my brother's like, you're insane. You're ridiculous. Nobody's going to buy that piece of crap. Like it's got stains. It's like so bad, whatever. My cousin's like, that's embarrassing. You should pay them to take it or whatever. And I was like, no, it's a really good sized couch, right? And I put it up I took really nice pictures. I tried to OxyClean it, dunk it, whatever, right? And I took really nice pictures and I put them up. And some girl almost immediately messaged me and she's like, hey, like, does it have this? Can you check if it's got the zippers or whatever? And I'm like, yeah, I know that they come off or whatever. And she came by, she saw it and she's like, I'll take it for $450. And I was like, my God, my cousin, my brother will never believe what I was just able to pull, right? We used this massive couch for everything and it cost us $150 for 4 years. And then when she came to pick it up, I'm like, hey, like it's a great couch. Like I know that the, seat covers are a little whatever, right? And it was discontinued. It was a custom order. So there was no way to buy those specific things, right? And she's like, oh, don't worry. I've got an upholsterer and he's going to redo the whole thing. It's just the base of this couch is worth crazy. I can't even believe I got it for $450. And I was like, could have sold this for $1,000. Like, I was so mad, but that was the first time I was like, man, that's wild what this couch that everyone else thought was, trash was worth, and I undersold it.
One person's trash, another person's treasure, right?
Hey, flippers, are you still managing your reselling business the old-fashioned way? In today's fast-paced market, leveraging technology isn't just an advantage, it's a game changer. That's why we created Ivy Flip, the ultimate app designed to supercharge your reselling business. With Ivy Flip, you can effortlessly source products from Facebook, OfferUp, and Craigslist, all from one easy-to-use platform. Say goodbye to missed opportunities and hello to instant notifications when great deals are posted. Our cross-posting feature lets you list your items on multiple marketplaces with a single click, maximizing your exposure and sales potential. Plus, our AI-powered scam detection ensures you spend your time on genuine listings, not fake ones. Don't let outdated methods hold you back. Embrace the power of technology with Ivy Flip and put your reselling business ahead of the competition. Click the link in the description and get a 1-week free trial of our app now.
And especially these custom models, like if it's custom work, the base is probably going to be really solid. And actually, like even with the proximity that I have to couch flipping, and like very few of our couch flippers will do any reupholstering. That's even its own segment of commerce.
That would be huge though. Like she would have paid 2,000 for that if I had made it nice, you know. That was the story.
When was this? Was this kind of during pandemic times or
No, before. It was 2018.
2018? Interesting. Yeah, I sold. I've had 3 Honda Accords, 2013, one 2000 EXL, and 2 2013 EXLs. I crashed 2 of them.
Okay.
It was not a good, track record for myself, but it is what it is. I've learned. But anyhow, like I had the car. I bought it 2013 EXL. I think it was for $16,000 at 40,000 miles. And at that time, it was probably 4 years old. And I ended up selling it in 2022 for $2,000 more than what I had paid for it after putting on 50,000 miles. But that was really more of an effect of the used car market and the crazy things happening in the supply chain. But I mean, these stories just go to show that you would be surprised at the value that is still in items, well, not cars, but in a lot of these items that people just take for granted. And that's part of the great thing of what we do as a reselling and flipping community, is that we help reclaim that value and prevent things from just going to waste or ending up in the landfill. So for everyone that says that we're being parasites and we're extracting value and giving nothing back, I think that's very far from the case. There's a lot of value, there's a lot of hard work that goes into building these flipping and reselling businesses and enabling this part of the commerce economy to be a thing.
Yeah, I don't even understand that narrative. Like I always just kind of ignore it because it makes no sense unless you're going to be mad at Target and like Walmart and get mad at anyone that sells you anything, or like the person that made your iPhone or whatever. Like it doesn't make sense. But people will people.
There are different categories of reselling as well, but I think there's a case to be made for each and every one of them. Like, so for example, I had a guy who runs a community, and they'll try to buy out things that are launched in limited quantities. It could be whatever. It could be shoes, sneakers, it could be concert tickets, like Taylor Swift concert tickets, right? So, and I think this is probably the most controversial niche of reselling. Yeah.
Well, there were people that were reselling freaking baby formula when we had a shortage. Like that's a different kind of like low level.
That's a different thing. Yeah. So that's where he drew the line too, right? Is like baby formula, no. Like
things to like survive and live and food and stuff, no. Even though, that's what's happened, groceries keep getting more and more expensive. The price to buy food at Ralph's or whatever you've got, Kroger or whatever, keeps going up. Like, are we mad at them? Should we go talk to them about pricing and stuff?
There's like, if you can't wait in line to buy this sneaker, or, I gave this analogy when I was speaking with him, is like, you wouldn't be mad at a guy who was waiting in front of Best Buy on Black Friday to buy a TV, for getting that TV for $200 and selling it for $800. Why is that? It's like, well, it's like you feel something more concrete about the work that he put in. Like he was in the cold, he's waiting a couple hours, and like that makes it more visceral and real compared to someone who's in line waiting for Taylor Swift tickets to drop online.
But it's the same idea. It's your feelings that are different, right? It's your morals and your thoughts and your feelings and your judgment. But at the end of the day, it's the same thing.
So how's your focus divided today between your reselling business and helping others grow their own reselling businesses?
So something really interesting happened again after the pandemic, once we'd gone through that. I think in business and in life, you have to realize where your cutoff point is, right? There's a ceiling to everything, and then you can decide to go around it or kind of get stuck there. So I like to travel a lot. I like being remote. There's nothing in the world that would make me go back because I like my travel life. The problem with my travel life is that I cannot grow reselling to the point that I would want to if I was physically there. It's already a lot of responsibility and stress knowing that I have thousands of dollars in product that someone else manages for me, right? And the person that manages for me is, I can't even find enough words to tell you how amazing she is. Like, people always ask me, like, could you put out a course? Could you do an interview to tell us how you found her? I can't because I just lucked out. I got a person that she's one of those people that does a great job, not for you, for her. Everything she does right because of her. Like, we've actually been together trying to organize the storage space. And at some point I'm like, dude, let's just stuff them, like, whatever. And she's like, no, because if we don't do it this way, the next time I have to find this. And I'm like, you're right. So there came a point where I'm like, if I wanted to double my reselling business, I'd have to move back and help, right? And so that was kind of like soul crushing because, like, I want to build the business and I want to make money and I love what I do, but that would go against the whole reason I built this, which is freedom, right? I want to be free to do whatever I want, wherever I want. So the way around that ceiling was, okay, I can't double my reselling business. It's just not possible if I don't go back. What I can do is increase the profit per unit, right? Go a little bit higher so that I can grow the revenue and the profit, but still keep the amount of units under control for one person and not have her quit. Because if she quit, like, I would offer her the moon and the stars, right? Like, I don't want her. And there's other people that ask me to do it. I'm like, you're not her though, like, no. So the way around that was to strategically find ways to grow revenue and profit on the reselling side, knowing that I can't blow it out, but I had this whole other door, digital products, right? I was doing consultations. I started the consultations at $100 for an hour. And everyone was like, no, people in the reselling industry are cheap. They're not going to pay that, da, da, da. But I was getting totally different messages, right? I was not a reseller. So I jumped into a community that I didn't know, right? So it's kind of nice because I didn't know the biases and I didn't know other people's opinions. Resellers are cheap. They don't like to pay that much money. I'm like, that's not what I'm getting. Like, that's just not what I'm getting from people I talk to. So I was like, I think they're really savvy with money, right? It's people that know the value of money. They see the opportunity in flips and stuff, and they see the investment side of it. So I think that it's more of like, they're not going to spend money on stupid things. But if they see the value in something, it's totally different, right? Same way you'd see the value in something at thrift or an estate sale or online. So I started them at 100 and I was selling out of consultations. They were amazing because I could individually target each person's problems, but they were a time suck. I could only do 3 without losing my voice. So then I upped the price to get people to not come as much. They sold out at 150. I got to 250. And I remember one month, it was May of whatever year, so May 22, the consultations were 250. I opened the booking thing and I got 76 consultations booked. And I was like, in a month, which nuts, right? If you look at the money, you're like, wow, that's amazing. But I knew what that meant for my time. So I actually got bummed. I got to a point where I was like, I feel like I'm just going to refund half. Like, I can't do this. I was already super burnt out. I guess I have to go to speaking classes because I don't know how to breathe from the right side where you're supposed to breathe. So if I talk for more than 3 hours, my voice is completely gone. So then I can't do consultations for another day, right? I see. So at that point, it was like, this is not working out for me. Again, we're back to no freedom, right? Because I was on a schedule. And that's where I kind of came up with the course. I was like, people have the same issues. They're calling it different things, but they're stuck on the same, you know what, right? Same BS. So that's kind of how I started going into the digital side. And the digital side has no ceiling. It doesn't need me to be anywhere. It doesn't need me to store things. I'm not sitting on thousands of dollars worth of product. I'll never stop reselling designer. It's too fun. It's the best return on my investment. Like, my stocks are not doing that. My crypto's in the toilet. Index funds are like growing, but this like doubles my money every time, right? So I'll never stop doing that. But I would say the focus has now shifted, maybe I would say half and half now, because I still love reselling. It's what I love to do. Like,
Mhm.
I always say that I wish I could go back to like my 17, 18-year-old self, like straightening shitty racks at like a store and going, dude, we made it. Like, I found a way for us to like shop designer for a living from our couch, right? From our like living room. So I would say 50-50. If I, in a perfect world, when I like stopped wanting to travel and whatever, I'd love to double down on resale. It's just so fun and it's
Well,
easy.
I could see you doing extremely well for that, well in that, given how passionate you are. And I can also see how you would lose your voice after, 3 hours of coaching sessions, because I feel like you inject a lot of passion and energy into whatever you're doing. That's a great.
I do, but then you run out of voice. Like my vocal cords were taking a hit, you know?
You got to preserve yourself at the same time. So I know that feeling. It seems like with reselling, there's kind of a sweet spot for a lot of people. And we operate mostly in the couch flipping world, very different world. There are similarities and differences, I would say. But, for a couch flipper, maybe a sweet spot is your solo operation and you have a little bit of help for like pickups and deliveries. You pay that guy maybe, $20, $30 to help you move things around here and there. But you're operating out of your garage or a single storage unit. Your expenses are extremely low. Like, I've helped these people put together P&Ls and like run through their numbers with them. And, we have these solo operations that are at like 90% net margin, and they're making $10,000, $12,000 a month. That's really good, right? That's a 6-figure side hustle, almost pure profit. And, maybe they're putting 20, 30 hours into it. On the other hand, you can try to scale up your couch flipping business. And I've seen people that are doing 30K, 40K in revenue, but then their net margin comes down to something like 50%. And in effect, they're making about the same amount of money as the person who's working a lot like leaner and like, let's say, less harder. So it's a difficult balance to strike. And it sounds like you've kind of found that bliss point for yourself with your reselling business. You're going to kind of leave it there and then focus on the other thing to maintain your freedom and flexibility.
So something that I notice a lot in the reseller community, I always tell them this, right? I came in operating differently because I did come from a corporate background and I was forced to learn to run this way, right? So when I go into business, there's no other way I can run. I calculate all this stuff, monthly projections, we do yearly projections. But a lot of people in the reseller space didn't do any of that. They didn't track data. They didn't know. They just did money in, money out, right? Kind of. Like a lot of people don't even know how much they have in inventory. Like, you don't know how much money you've tied up in your knickknacks and stuff. Like, that's important to know, right? You got to project what's coming in, what you're set to make on this investment. So I think for me, something that's interesting, at least in the reseller space where it's like thrifting and that kind of stuff, they're very concerned about the margin, right? The return on investment in terms of profit margin. So one of my examples is, you'll see a reseller go 900% profit margin on this flip. It's like, okay, you made $19, girlfriend, calm down, right? We need to see it total, right? So a lot of people flaunt these profit margins, but I'm like, you want to know how much you want to take home a month, a year, what you need to pay your bills, what you need to keep the circus running, right? So for me, like, I throw down more money in one go, right? So I pay 100, 150, 200, 250 per piece, but then I get 200, 250, 300, 400 back in one flip. It's one single item processed, one pair of shoes, right? That money came back from minimal work. And so for me, what I've been trying to do with the reseller community is a lot of people are thinking in terms of their money, their ROI, their percentage, this, that. Dude, think about how much real money your money is making and how much work you did for that. Because that's the other thing, right? If I got an offer for a job that's like, we're going to guarantee you, $300,000, $250,000 a year, right? But you have to work like a horse, no break, 17 hours. I'm going to pass. I'm going to pass. I'd rather live off of my, reselling. I'd rather do another part-time job where I kind of like talk to people at Nerdstrom or whatever. Like to me, time is more valuable than money. So that's what I've been trying to teach my community, my students is like, don't forget the amount of time it takes you to source, steam, measure, list, photograph, ship that item, right? Instead of and my whole thing is if you're doing it for 10 to 15 bucks, why not do it for 100 bucks? Or why not do it for 50? And so that's kind of what I've been trying to put out in a community that doesn't seem to have a lot of like business background. A lot of people start out for fun. They like to thrift. They found the one dress, they flipped it for 20, and they keep doing what they've been doing for 3 or 4 years, right? Without ever going back and going, wait a minute, this is a business and it might need some structure.
I think we're probably more similar in a lot of ways than you'd expect, just like my background, your background, but we kind of ended up in the same place if you think about it. We're in Mexico.
Because we want freedom. We literally ended up living in Mexico and running remote companies because we value freedom over many other things. There's very little things you could offer me that would make me give up time and like flexibility.
Absolutely. So, we deal with a mostly male audience. Couch flippers, by and large, male, and they get into couch flipping for very capitalistic reasons. They're in it to make money. Where I feel like the people who are flipping clothing, thrifting, designer, it's proximity to a thing that they love. It's like a hobby and like an interest to them. At what point do they start making this transition to thinking about it in terms of a business?
The second you show them the time opportunity, right? The opportunity cost that they are missing out on because they're not tracking that. And it's funny you say that. So I built the course and then I offered with the course a shitty spreadsheet that I made because I am not good at that, right? And once I offered it, I was like, this is not the level that belongs in my course, right? And I remembered this girl that I had met in one of the consultations. She sent me a spreadsheet and I was like, who is this freaking genius, right? She was a 27-year-old mining engineer with like honors and all sorts of stuff, right? And I was like, hey, Christine, could you build out a spreadsheet? And she's like, dude, that's what I do for a living for mining companies. And I was like, yes. So I had this amazing spreadsheet built out because when I did the consultations, people would send me their spreadsheets and I'd be like, tell me what you see there, blank, right? They were tracking to feel organized, but they didn't know what to get out of it. And so we built the spreadsheet, whatever, and we made it pink and like it's super girly and it's really pretty. And we have one guy that bought it, right? And I offered to make him a neutral one and he's like, dude, I don't care. I see green. Like I care about money. He's really good at designer reselling, designer flipping. Why? Because he doesn't care to flip it. He doesn't care to take it, right? He doesn't care to keep it. He doesn't look at the Louboutin shoes and go, oh my God, they're so cute. Do I need it? He's like, dude, profit, cost, in, out. So he's really good, much better than a lot of other people because there's not that like interest fashion, like, oh, should I keep these Chanel shoes in case I need them for next week or whatever, which I would love to act like I'm super business and like, like numbers only. But a really cute pair of Chanel shoes will always tempt me, will always want to end up in my closet, right? This guy, it's great because he does women's designer fashion and it's just in and out, pure profit, doesn't care what it is, doesn't care if it looks cute, not for his girlfriend or anything. And so guys, if you are listening, you've got a huge leg up on this because you don't care, right? You don't care to keep it. And the reality is it's really small storage compared to couches. So it's like you could throw in a little bit of both. I mean, there's pieces out there worth a lot of money. But I think back to your question of when they realized, I think they just never had a chance because some of them started as a hobby. Some of them just started for fun. Some of them have been out of the workplace for a long time and they haven't really been taught to structure that way. And so it's crazy because if you go on my Instagram and you see the testimonials and I leave the pictures up, sometimes I do anonymous because like you don't want everyone in that person's like exact numbers and stuff. But the testimonials are insane. A lot of people are like, I don't believe it. It must be her cousin. Like someone's leaving her testimonials. No. And if you were able to get in the course and see what I'm teaching, it all makes sense. It's just that it's never been laid out in that way in the community that I'm in, right? That a lot of people just, again, start for fun and they've never sat down and gone, what if I strategize? What if I make a business plan? What if I have cutoffs? What if it's in and out and I don't think about it as a cute dress? And I just, sometimes they're like, Isa, you totally changed my business. Like you did this. And I'm like, did I, or did I just ask you to get organized? Did I just ask you to run on data?
It's a bit of a double-edged sword because the guy that you have in your course, like he's not getting high on his own supply. That's a very important thing, right? Any hustler, entrepreneur is going to tell you that. Like you got to separate personal and business at some level. But for the people that are hobbyists that are trying to turn this into a business, they have an edge in that this is something that they know a lot about, that they're passionate about, then they can maybe transform their passion into a revenue source. But yes, absolutely. Having the foundation and ability to think about your business as a business, incredibly important. Now, for the audience that may not be as familiar with like designer resale, luxury, and like fashion resale, can you talk a little bit more about the opportunity? Like what are some of the results that you're seeing with your students in the community at large?
So when you guys do couch flipping, right? What are you looking at as like an average profit on a flip?
Let's say $500 is a good place to be for a flip on a couch. Use couch flip.
So I think the opportunity, right, for everyone, especially in your space, is that you guys have got this on lockdown. You know everything about couches. You know what's going to work, what's not. Like, but in that storage, what it takes you to store that couch, you could make 3 times the money with half the storage with some shoes, right? Boxes of shoes or whatever. So an average profit on designer shoes, and we're not talking top tier, right? We're talking like vintage Gucci does well and it's easy, it's cheaper to get in. Like you're not talking 2022 Chanel here, but there's opportunity everywhere. And you could probably average 250 profit per flip. You can go on my Instagram and see there's times I've done 450 on a shoe. I've done up to 500 on a shoe. There's some Louboutin boots that might be higher than that, but about that, I flipped a Chanel jacket for $2,500 profit, right? We're talking about a jacket. How much, and once it's folded down, it fits in like, I don't know, like the top, like a third of a desktop, right? And so I think the opportunity is in the space for you guys. Like you're doing this couch thing anyway. You know what you can stack up on top of the couch or like underneath or whatever? Bunch of shoes, like some women's bags and stuff. And the opportunity is also that as these platforms become bigger, right, it's not resellers. The majority of people there are just rich women that don't want their stuff anymore. And they don't care what they paid for it. They just want it gone, right? And I'm not one of those rich women fire selling Chanel, but I've been a place where like when we moved from LA, like the last week when we were moving, I was like, Goodwill. Don't even care what's in that box, not even gonna look at it. As long as it's not like family pictures or like something incredibly valuable, it's going to Goodwill. And I worked retail my whole life, so there's probably really good stuff in there. But at the end, I was like, guess who's not dealing with that box? Me. Right? So it ends up donated. Or I always give an example online of some older woman came up, bought some Manolo Blahniks for her daughter's wedding, wore them once, because where else are you wearing 4-inch heels or whatever, right? They're uncomfortable. And she just wants to sell them. Her granddaughter told her about Poshmark. She takes the photos with her like iPhone 10, right? They're grainy, they're crooked. She took them in the dark setting. And she listed them for $80. You take those same shoes, put them on lights, right? Do nice pictures, do SEO optimization, and you're golden. I have another post on there. So the Chanel was 2,500. I think I made like 1,200 on an Alexander McQueen jacket, right? Leather jacket, same thing, this big crop. Right. The lady that listed it, her listing title was Black Leather Jacket. No mention.
In the description, maybe?
No. Just on Poshmark, you click the brand. So there she clicked Alexander McQueen. But Alexander McQueen has like a cheaper line, like a sub line or whatever it's called, right? So, and it looked terrible in the pictures. So right. I don't think everyone was trying to look for it. What she forgot to say was that it was a 2007 Alexander McQueen runway jacket while Alexander McQueen was still alive.
Yeah, this is very interesting to me because we've looked all up and down different resale categories, and couches are an interesting resale category because they're big and bulky items. So compare like couches to cars. Even if you know nothing about cars, you kind of know what the value of your car is because you just go look it up on Kelley Blue Book. And cars are such a big investment. People generally want to like stick stick to what that value is and recoup as much value out of a car that they're selling. They care about it, right? Whereas like a couch, like if you're moving out of your apartment and you don't want to bring your couch with you, it's kind of an inconvenience, right? So at a certain level, they just kind of want to get rid of it. And then, maybe you paid $5,000 for your couch, but it has a couple stains and you don't realize like you can clean those stains out. People are willing to give away these used couches for like $100, $200, sometimes even free. And it creates this massive arbitrage opportunity, right? The fact that you can consistently make $500 on a couch is a symptom of like this convenience factor and also information asymmetry. The fact that the people who have these couches and want to get rid of them don't really know what the market value of them are. And cars, iPhones, etc., like there's less of this arbitrage opportunity, but it kind of sounds like if you know what you're looking for when it comes to luxury designer clothing, like you can make a pretty penny. Like you can take something, buy it for 200, flip it for 1,000.
I think you hit the nail on the head with the inconvenience factor, though, because like I said, if I really went in and thought about what was in that box that I gave away, I think I had some like scissor. I used to sew, like I was in fashion school and stuff. I think I had a pair of scissors that was worth like $400, right? For like special scissors for special fabrics or whatever. Those were in there. Could I have sold them for more on Facebook Marketplace if I thought about it? Yeah, but we were down to the wire. It was an inconvenience at that point, and I was like, just get it out of my life, right? So I think that's the thing with the couch. This massive thing in your living room is staring at you. You're not going to take it to your new place. What you paid for it kind of takes a backseat, and now it's become this burden that I must get rid of this second, right? And the mentality goes from where we're trying to see like how much can I get for this on the flip. They're going like whatever I can get back and have it gone, right? Or I've heard a lot of like consignment people that I work with and stuff go, you know what? Like anything's better than like nothing. Okay. I'll take it.
Absolutely. Selling is a skill set. It takes time and energy depending on like where you are at mentally. Like maybe you just don't have the bandwidth to think about like, how do I take a good photo and like, how do I write a good title and a description? Things that we as resellers take for granted. But once again, a lot of it is just sometimes you just don't know what you don't know, right? And it takes time and effort and energy to like kind of figure it out, and they don't want to invest it. And that's fine. That's what creates.
It's complicated. If you've never been on eBay, I've had consignment people. I give them the quote because I do a little bit of consignment. They're like, "Ooh, that's not that much. I'll do it myself." Guess what? They always come back and they're like, "Just sell it." Because it's too much time and effort to figure out how eBay works, set up your shipping, figure out how to get on, like take pictures. It's just too much. We're at an advantage because we know we've got that skill set now, and that burden turns into like a great opportunity, right? But that opportunity is everywhere. And so I think that it's the same thing with luxury, like maybe not Chanel. But there's a lot of people that have had something for a long time. They've got the money to buy the new thing. They don't need those $600 that they paid, right? They just want room in their closet. So I think that opportunity translates to everything. Some people just don't care.
Right. And that's what creates the opportunity on the buy side. Now, as a reseller or a flipper, someone who's looking to buy these things, I think the thing that holds them back the most is, once again, lack of information. When it comes to reselling and flipping, we are playing an information game. And I'll tell you, like couch flippers ask me from time to time, like I was going to pick up a couch and this woman had this West Elm table that she's trying to give away for free. Should I pick this up? I'm like, dude, it's free. Like go get that thing.
Where's the question?
Right. But the issue is like, they're worried. They're like, well, I haven't sold it before. I don't have experience in tables. What if I take it and then I can't sell it and it sits in my storage unit? And so they want everything to be de-risked. But at the same time, if that same person had sold 10 West Elm tables before, there's no risk. Then it becomes a no-brainer. So I guess when it comes to luxury, fashion designer, etc., like how do people get over that information gap? Like how can they feel more confident that they're buying the right items and they can be profitable?
Here's what I tend to say, right? But I am a gambling woman, so I have no problem gambling money, right? Like I just, if I think that there's a chance to win big on something, I'm gonna throw down. And the reason is I think the biggest rewards come to people that are willing to just go for it, right? Because by the time you did the research on this bag and was it worth it and how much, I already bought it, right? And in my head, and this is not my business motto, right? But I'm like, worst case scenario, could I get my money back? Yeah. So what's the risk, right? Could, like, if you got a West Elm table for free, could you sell it for $50? Probably. So where is the risk? I think a lot of people overthink what that risk could be. Like something that and I can't claim this, my boyfriend actually told me about this because I used to worry about things all the time for no reason. And he'd make me go through scenarios where it's like, okay, well, what's the worst thing that could happen? And I'm like, well, I get fired. And he's like, and then? And I'm like, I guess then I get unemployment. And he's like, okay. And then could you get another job? And then I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, and he's like, and what if you didn't get another job? And he's like, could I help with everything? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, so are you really gonna? And I'm like, well, what if you're not here, right? And he's like, so you couldn't get another job? And I'm like, yeah. So your worst case scenario is never really that bad, right? Unless you're like getting sick or it's health related or something like that. But for me, it's like I've built up enough capital to where I can gamble with some money. And I also build that into my business plan. I assume that like $2,000 are going to disappear every year. Something's going to get damaged, something's going to get stolen, something's going to get returned faulty, and I'm not going to see it. We're going to, whatever that situation is, right? And what I tell my girls is, you're not going to win on everything. You're not, right? Sometimes when something's been sitting in your inventory for, 6 months, let's say a year, because you thought it was like this magical piece that's going to go. At some point you part ways, and if you lost 20 bucks, you lost 20 bucks. What matters is, what does your P&L say, right? What does your quarterly profit say? What does your year look like? Because if you ended up making an extra 15, 20, whatever, $1,000 a year, did that gamble matter? Did the few things that didn't sell matter? Did the hits you took for 2,000 bucks matter? In my book, it doesn't. I don't know if
I think this is a great point. Like, businesses don't get built sitting around and thinking about it, right? It comes from taking action. And if you're stuck in analysis paralysis, oh, should I buy this or should I buy? Just go buy the thing and see what happens, right? Like,
if it's not going to break the bank, why wouldn't you just go for it,
Yeah, do as much due diligence as reasonably necessary, but don't let opportunities slip past you because you're sitting there thinking about it. And that's the thing about good deals, is that they move quickly, right? The better the deal, the more competition there is for it. That's, why the entire basis of our company and why we exist, right, is that we get you to the best deals fast. So it's something that we understand intimately. But yeah, I encourage more and more flippers to adopt that mindset, which is like, if you're unsure, maybe give it a try. Think about the worst case, think about the best case too. But the important thing is, if you give it a try, now you'll know. You'll know for sure. And if you ever come across an opportunity like that again in the future, you'll know what to do.
Well, then you can go find the opportunity, right? Let's say you killed it with the West Elm table. You're like, hold on, new category in my business. Like, I'm going to go actively search for those. Whereas with the free product, there should be no question, right? Can you give it away on Nextdoor if you don't want to deal with it 2 months in? Then do it. But for me, especially in these times, I just think that the more willing you are to kind of throw down and make it work, the better it goes. And I say this after building a lot of capital and knowing, like, I make my girls have a cash stash. They have a business stash that they can tap into. They've got personal cash stashes. So I think it's that feeling of like when you're kind of short on cash, you're like, oh God, if I put in 200 on this, I'm going to be kind of close to, whatever. So if you've got that backing, the fear kind of goes away because you're like, these 200 bucks are not going to make or break me.
That's such a great point. I've been an entrepreneur my entire career. This is my 5th company. And my friends or people ask me for entrepreneurial advice from time to time. How do I get started? What should I do? I always tell them, get safe. And what I mean by get safe is like, make sure your expenses are taken care of for a year or two. Like you want more than that 6 months of runway, and maybe even have some capital to invest. And it's because if you're worried about how you're going to, pay for lunch, you're just not going to be a very effective entrepreneur. You're too stressed out. Cortisol levels are up, your decision making is bad, and you have to be calm and persistent in times of stress. That's par for the course.
Setting yourself up to be able to do that and not worry about it. And I think that's the biggest thing is things, especially in these times that are kind of like shaky. Like my sales are shit in June. They're terrible. You know why I'm not worried? Because they are shit June of last year. And I always know that there's a dip in the summer. So when I have these massive months, January, February, I stash cash for this. And I got enough cash in the business to last us a while, while we kind of go through these summer slowdowns where everyone's fire selling items, freaking Target's giving away products, and like Walmart and like, all the designer houses are going like 50% off a month early. But if you're prepared with some backing, some cash there, it just makes everything so much easier to think clearly. Because what you're wanting to get at is clarity, right? To make the right calls and not based on like this fear of like, I won't have enough or I can't pay for lunch or groceries or whatever.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more to unravel there. I do want to take a step, not back, but deeper and get somewhat more tactical. So in terms of pricing, right? Like you're looking for things that are in demand, popular, like, I guess, because I actually don't know so much about this space. How would I start figuring that out?
You as someone that isn't really into the designer or somebody that's into it?
I have no real experience with that at all. But if I wanted to learn about like what is popular, what are like shoes that people want, like things I should buy, like how do I start learning about that?
So the first thing I would do is I would walk into a high-end Nordstrom's, like one of the ones that has designer or Neiman Marcus or whatever you have available, right? Don't get arrested by security. So you won't be able to photograph and film. It's going to have to be your memory, right? But I would go through every single brand in the shoe department, women's, because I'll tell you what, women pay way more than men's. I stopped doing men's. It's just not worth my time, except for certain pieces, but just women love fashion and are willing to go for like bigger things, right?
Right.
So I would go through every single brand and look at the styles that they have, okay? So one example for Gucci, everyone and their mother has those little Princetowns. Those little like slip-on mules that all the girls want and have? They're little like leather mules and they've got the horse bit, like a Gucci horse bit on them.
Gucci leather mule. Oh, okay.
So a bunch of girls everywhere have that. Celebrities have that, whatever. Those have been out since like 2018, 2017, 2016 maybe. And they're a staple. They're a staple. They're still around. Like they still make them. So if you go into Gucci, and you walk in right now into Neiman Marcus or whatever, and you look for the Gucci section, I bet you those are in there because they're still making them, right? Here's where I like to invest with time, right? I used to flip those. I used to get in on those for like 175, 200 and flip them for $4.99, $5.99 quick, right? Now retail, they're $8.90. They used to be $6.99, right? So this is also where you have to kind of think in terms of investing. I made the quick flip back then. If I'd kept an arsenal of those or thrown down big in 2019 when I was buying them for that much, the profit on that would be $400 now because they're still at the store. They've now increased $200 in price, right? And my buy-in cost was super low. But that's another point. I would go through all of the brands and see what styles are currently in there, right? And then if you go on to Poshmark or eBay or wherever you're trying to source and you type in something that a customer would type in looking for that style of shoe that you saw, you'll notice that the brands kind of make similar shoes throughout the years, right? Because at some point you run out of ideas for shoes. So like strappy little heels with crystals on them, not the first time we've seen them. Some sort of Gucci loafer, not the first time they've been out, right? Mary Janes come back every like 5 or 10 years. Like you'll go in and see, like you could go in right now. Like I just saw the Valentino newest collection from their new designer who was the Gucci designer. And he came out with Mary Janes that have straps. Dior did that 3 years ago. So then if this is the new 4 years ago, I don't know how long, but if that's the new fashion right now, you could probably go back and get the old Dior's, for a little less. The woman that's selling them doesn't know they're back in style, probably. Like she's already worn them. She's done with them, right? You want to understand what's currently in stores right now, which is what women are looking at what's coming out in the fashion magazines and the fashion blogs, what influencers are wearing, the new stuff, right? And try to see if you can find styles that are similar to what you see. You're going to have cheaper buy-in.
So like fashion comes in waves, right? Or cycles.
And the cycles are getting shorter.
Interesting. So if you walk into a Neiman Marcus or a Nordstrom today, you see this is contemporary, this is modern, this is what people want right now. And then you cross-reference that to whatever the previous cycle was, and that's your supply.
Yeah. I mean, if I don't know how many of your guys are going to be interested in knowing any of this, but I do have a subscriber thing on Instagram because I was getting in trouble on Instagram because some brands like Chanel don't like the resale market. Like if you post their logos, they take the post down. If you show certain things, you can't show, like I used to do like a fake and real post so people could learn about it. And I got some taken down because I guess you can't show the counterfeit. It's like copyright infringement, whatever, even though it's educational. But I do have that subscription. It's $2.99 a month. And I can post the stuff there because it's not, nobody's reporting me or seeing what, I don't know, Chanel's not going to subscribe. Right. So in there though, I just talked about like, I just had a flip. It flipped in 2 weeks. It was $288 profit, and it was a pair of Chanel Gladiator sandals. And all I did was I went back. I see this stuff all the time because I like it. But I recently went back and what was on those 2024 fashion runways? I don't even remember anymore. It's so long ago that I saw them because they do them 6 months prior, right? And I saw like 3 or 4 big houses like Tom Ford, Alberta Ferretti, I don't know who else. I can't remember right now. But they had Gladiator sandals. So I literally went on Poshmark, typed in Gladiator sandals, luxury, and these popped up. And I was like, shoot, Chanel for $300, I'm in, right? A little more than I usually spend, but it's Chanel and I got to get in and out quick because trends are like hot potato. So I bought them, I listed them, and they sold in 2 weeks. So that tip is now in my subscriber page. Don't go crazy on it because we don't know how long that trend will last, right? But if you're in the market and you've got the cash and you find them, now's the time, right? Price accordingly so that they flip fast. You collect your $100 or $200 and go. That's kind of how we treat those.
It's like you could kind of, and you should over time figure it out yourself. But if you need a shortcut, you could always subscribe to your subscription page on Instagram and get some quick tips on what to look for.
I write it that it's inspiration. I don't want you to go do exactly what I do because I've been doing this for a long time and you don't know my goals, my plan, my cash flow, like all that, right? But I think what happens is I have them do homework and be like, don't copy me, go check this, this, and this and see what you come up with. And then I think that's where you kind of go, what if you Googled something that brought you to some trend that's super hot and you find these actresses that are wearing it and the other girl went another route, right? Or the other person went another route. And so I think what happens with my students in the course is that they do their own research based on their parameters, like their profit goals, their capital, however much capital they have available, all that stuff. And then what's cool is they're all running off the same strategy. They've got different brands because they've got different buy-in limitations and different spending limitations and different goals to flip. And like my goal is, I like to say it like a $200 average profit, right? So let's say that I buy in something cheap for like $100. I might have to wait for the $4.99 offer where my girl, who she's only aiming for 50, 60 average profit, she can come in and out. She can undercut me. Price halfway there, collect her money and go. So I think with that subscription, what I want you guys to do, or what I want people that do join, is to understand how I'm thinking through it and then use that to go find your pot of gold and run that. Don't tell anyone about it and then just run it until it's done, right?
Absolutely. I think it's, that's the cool thing about flipping, especially in your category, is that you can kind of have your own style, your own flair, your own little magic to how it works. Whereas, other flipping niches, it does become a little bit more rinse and repeat, right?
I think that's the key to making a lot of money is the rinse and repeat. Mm-hmm. Like I have one of my students, I can tell you now because her run is done, but she found this really simple silk, like pleated green dress, right? Some brand. From the rent runway sales or whatever. Her buy-in cost was an average of like 90 to 100, right? She sold 12 of them with an average profit of like 150 to 250. She did the run. All she did was like she'd buy it again and then she'd relist it. She'd buy a couple at the same time and just relist them and do them. And then some girl that does like in our community, somebody kind of shows you tips and like fashions and what you should buy. Problem is once she posts it, it gets saturated because
It's
everyone's going to
done.
go
Yeah.
after it. So when she found it, she's like, you can share my run. So I'm going to share that in the subscriber group.
Mhm.
But that's really cool. This girl found this one item that she was able to rinse and repeat 12 times, right? 150 times 12, whatever that is. And it's a silk. I mean, I wish you could see it. It's like just this green silk long dress. You could fold it down to the size of like a shoebox and flat.
I guess what I meant was more like there's more in couches, for example. Everyone loves a big gray sectional. That's what's popular right now. Or a cloud couch, right? There's only so many things, like so many styles of couches that people are really looking for and are popular, whereas fashion is much more varied. There's these smaller pockets, ability, like your ability to make money. And also the supply chain, if you think like both buying and selling is national, if not international, compared to a very local market for buying and selling couches. So it just seems like there's like a lot more of these little pockets that you can kind of get into and have fun with.
Totally. Yeah. A lot of girl, I don't do vintage, but some people make crazy money on vintage dresses. I think you have to have a little more knowledge in that because you want to make sure that it's the right piece from the right designer from the right time or whatever. And those are a little bit harder to come by, but you're looking at five to, unlimited, whatever someone thinks that dress is worth from the 60s, you know?
Mhm, mhm. So question, where do you typically do your sourcing, or maybe where do your students typically do their sourcing?
On the same platforms we sell. So eBay, Poshmark. I don't like ThreadUp. It's just too much time. I don't like anything that takes me too much time. I'd rather pay a little more and be able to dive in with a better search algorithm or whatever and buy in and go. But ThreadUp does have really good options because they do tend to price really low. Sometimes they don't even know what they're pricing at. And you'll be able to get a designer piece for less. The Real is good. Again, it's like a lot of time searching and, you can get good deals. I like when I started with eBay auctions because people just let it run. And sometimes you can get, a brand new pair of Manolo Blahniks for like $90 because somebody just let the auction run and nobody bid on it. So I think that's a good place to start where you don't have like a big cost in and can get really good stuff. You just have to kind of wait for the auction to hit and maybe, put in your minimum so that if somebody bids up, you have like a cutoff. I'm more concerned about the kind of product that I'm trying to buy and I've got like a cost average that I need to hit. And if it's in there, like I'll just get it. But this is like 8 years in, right? Like I used to be way more cautious about how much I spend and that I could get the lowest price. Now it's kind of like I kind of know where I have to get in and what I have to exit at to make what I like to make and move on. But eBay auctions are, I would say, the best place to start to get the best deals.
eBay, Poshmark, I think you said Etsy,
ThreadUp,
ThreadUp,
and the Real.
the Real. Okay, cool. And these are all marketplaces for buying and selling secondhand clothing.
It's just so cool because it gets to your door. It's like Christmas. It's literally like ordering Amazon stuff. You don't have to go anywhere. Like they just show up. So
What about sourcing things locally? Because I know for other categories on eBay, for example, like electronics, etc., by the time something gets listed on eBay, it's pretty much at parity with, what the ultimate sale price is going to be. So it's like it's harder to find an opportunity for arbitrage, and therefore, people take to thrifting or like not thrifting, going to like garage sales or flea markets or buying off Facebook Marketplace, like essentially finding things locally to sell on eBay.
I would disagree with that in our luxury field because, again, we're going with what people think items are worth, right? It's all kind of based on what they assume their item is. And so there are pieces probably where people get mad sometimes that I buy off Poshmark and sell on Poshmark. And they're like, she's taking advantage. And I'm like, I didn't force you to sell. You priced your item, right?
Right.
So I think there's a lot of meat left on a lot of stuff that's on eBay and Poshmark and whatever, just because the person isn't either, maybe they're just some girl that wants to get rid of their heels, right? They're not doing market research. They're not running numbers. They're not trying to figure out anything, right? 200 bucks, just give me 200 bucks and they're gone. They're $700 shoes, right? So I still think that online sourcing is the biggest opportunity in the luxury space. I think you could get lucky if you did like the Facebook marketplace or like next door, some neighbor that's like, I don't want my shoes. Like some girls do I can't because I'm not there, right? The local sourcing or whatever, but I can tell you my students still do thrifting, a lot of them. So they thrift and then they throw in the bigger luxury flips to kind of move up their profit average. But I would say 95% of them are sourcing online.
Interesting.
There's so many
Yeah.
deals. Just things go up every single day, every day. You never run out of product.
I mean, the thing that's so interesting about that is like, if you're truly doing your sourcing online, then it can all get shipped to you, and then you can do all of your selling online. Like, this is a very automatable and scalable business. And eventually, it'll get automated to parity, right? Like, someone's going to figure it out and just build an engine that just is like constantly buying, and this is what has happened in like like sneakers and other.
They will, right? That's with everything. Somebody's gonna get an AI program to go sweep eBay and clean us out or whatever. But that market isn't as lucrative when you scale. So if you see what's happening to the Real and ThredUp, they're literally like falling to pieces, right? It's not lucrative because they like the Real photographs all of their items. So you need someone processing the items, steaming each item, photographing each item, listing each item, measuring each item, right? It's a lot of manpower that's required to run these kinds of businesses, and they're literally falling to the cracks. Like, look at what Real is worth now in the stock market, and just look up any article that says like the Real business, and you see that they are hurting, right? So someone at that scale probably could have gotten an AI program cleaned out, right? Went in and just cleaned out everything. But at some point, they've got to offload too. Not everything's guaranteed to sell. So then you go right back in and you're like, hey, Real, remember when you took all the good stuff off the market and thought you could sell it right away? I'm going to go right ahead and take your 70% clearance and list it myself.
So the Real and ThredUp, these are pretty much examples of flippers at scale that have then turned into like incorporate a marketplace.
They are a marketplace who also decided to own their product. I don't think it's a great idea. It's a lot of work, right?
I see.
So the real money is in eBay and Poshmark and the people that provide the platform space, like the platform for users. They don't own product. They don't have to process product. They don't have to do anything, right? It's these people that tried to scale what we do, right? And with the hourlies going up, a lot of them are in California. You got to pay people $20 an hour to steam, to list, to measure, to photograph, all of this. So, and then at they run crazy discounts, right? Enter code REAL to get 20% off, 50% off all summer merchandise, and da-da-da-da. Like, I just don't know. I've never understood how they make money compared to like an eBay or a Poshmark who just supplies the platform. I may be totally wrong, but if you go into the Real and sort by their clearance, you'll see what they're selling stuff at. And they bought it, they usually consign for people. So that's another added cost, right? Maybe they don't buy up front, but then they have to take care of your items. They have to take care of the shipping to and from. They have to take care of they lost it. They have to take care. They've got so many more liabilities. I wouldn't want to do that at that scale.
Yeah, no, I would be super curious to peek at their financials. It sounds like they're a public company. Their stock value is plummeting, though.
Go check it out. It's interesting.
I probably will, and I'll give you an update on that in the future.
Yeah, I'd love to. I mean, I'm not the person to go dig through financials. Like, I know their company's not doing well just because they can't be doing well. It's just so many moving parts and costs. But I'd love to get your take on it.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, the labor component seems arduous. Maybe like some AI workflow can help alleviate that. But I don't think they can even like offshore because of the import-export costs, like shipping things in and out.
And there's so many laws around used clothes. Like in Mexico, I know it's illegal, thinking of all the things that are, possible around here. But there's some law that prohibits like used clothing or secondhand or something. So
Interesting.
Check it out. I'd love to see your take on those companies.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Isa, it's been an amazing chat with you. We're just about at our hour now. I appreciate you. Yeah, time flew by, and I feel like we could dig in for more. But yeah, I appreciate you jumping on the podcast today. I hope to connect with you and chat more in maybe a future episode. It's been really enlightening learning about the luxury fashion resale market, and yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, if your users, I know it's mostly guys, and it might not be something that they're super interested in, but there's huge opportunity. I mean, there is big opportunity, especially because you guys might not care about the, really cute pair of Dior's that you've got in. You would just know that they're $250 a pop. So definitely look into it as an opportunity.
I think it could be a great add-on for some, like, so our audience today is, I'd say, still majority couch flippers, but now we have like 25% people sort of interested in just general ways of making money. I think there's a great pitch for the average couch flipper to get into some luxury reselling because you're at someone's house, they're moving out, they're getting rid of a couch. What else are they getting rid of, right? It can't hurt to ask. And, you could end up hauling away a lot more than just a couch. So Isa, we are over our allotted hour for today. I appreciate you coming onto the pod and teaching us about the luxury fashion resale market. I think this has been extremely educational and enlightening for my audience. If anyone following along wants to follow Isa and learn more about how to be successful with luxury fashion, we'll be sure to have all of her links in the description below.
Thank you so much for having me.